maayos. For you also to rest, para makapagpahinga rin kayo because another set of crash course na naman yung mangyayari bukas. I think that is CDI. Okay po. So, let's start na. So, for our topic outline, so ito lang naman yung mga i-discuss natin. Ulitin ko, yung mga topic na sa tingin ko hindi na dapat i-discuss ng malalim, so i-skip ko na po siya. Ano? So, ang point lang naman ng lie detection is for us to detect yung mga tao na nagsisinungaling. So, we are detecting them in a way na hindi sinasabi ng machine if sinungaling yung tao or hindi. Naka-base pa rin siya since we are talking about science. So, naka-base siya doon sa reactions ng tao. Then, the machine will record it. And then, once it is recorded, the polygraph examiner will interpret the records based on the records, tsaka siya magbibigay ng desisyon. So, yung basis naman ng pag-i-interpret ng mga, what do you call this, ng mga signals or signs ng mga ginagawa or changes doon sa reaction ng subject is based and backed up by science. Okay? So, later on, mas madidiscuss siya. So, pag sinabi nating lie, it refers to an untrue or falsehood statement. And then, we have different kinds of lie. So, we have direct denial. For example, harap-harapan na siyang nagsisinungaling sa'yo. So, nakita mo na may kasama siyang iba, pero tinatanggi pa rin niya. So, that is direct denial. When we say lie again, ito yung pagsasabi na hindi totoo. Parang ang daming nakarelate, ano po. Ito yung pagsasabi na hindi totoo. So, yun yung direct denial. Nakita mo na't lahat-lahat dinedeny pa rin niya. So, sa lie by omission naman, omitting details that could possibly create trouble. Simple tal. Kumbaga, hindi mo na sinasabi yung mga bagay na sa tingin mo ay ikakapahamak mo. So, that is lie of omission. Hindi mo na sinabi yung mga bagay. For example, tinanong ka, oh, kumusta yung exam mo? Pumasa ka ba? Ang sinabi mo, kahit hindi, pumasa ka na lang, or let's say, hindi mo na sinabi yung details, okay naman ma, goods naman. Pero hindi mo na sinabi kung ano yung scores, parang gano'n. So, that's lie of omission. Then, lie of fabrication, false story. So, totally, wala nang totoo. Talagang ginawa mo na lahat or yung sinabi mo is totally hindi totoo. So, nag-fabricate ka na. So, that is lie of fabrication. So, we have different kinds of lies. So, tandaan nyo na lang yung mga yan. That's easy to understand na. Then, we also have liar. Of course, that is the person who tells a lie. So, ang tawag sa kanila, excuse me, is liar. So, we have different types of liar based on the lie that they are telling or they are doing. So, for example, si panic liar. So, nakakapagsinungaling siya out of or to avoid consequences of confession. For example, nahuli kang, wag na ako mag-example, baka masyadong negative yung dating. Okay, so pag sinabing panic liar, ano ba? Ah, sige, bitawan ko na nga. Kunwari, nahuli kang nangongopya. So, nakatingin ka dun sa papel ng katabi mo. So, sabi, Hoy, Mr. De La Cruz, nangongopya ka na naman. Sir, hindi po, nag-stretching lang po ako ng leeg. Medyo nangawit na po kasi nakayuko. So, nagpanic ka na. Siyempre, pag nahuli kang nangongopya, that is uh, bad and pinagbabawal talaga siya. So, panic liar. Occupational liar naman, these are person who lie because mas may kinikita sila sa pagsisinungaling kaysa sa pagsasabi ng totoo. Basically, yun lang naman yun. Mas nakikinabang sila kapag nagsisinungaling sila rather than when they are telling the truth. They are occupational liar. Tournament liar naman, these are type of persons na nagsisinungaling kasi they are being challenged. They are getting excited. Yes, hindi ako nahuli na nagsinungaling ako. Gagawin ko pa ulit sa susunod. Okay, so yun yung tingin nila sa lying. That is tournament liar. Ethnological liar naman, these are person who is trained not to be a squealer. So pag sinabi nating ethnological liar, there are some things na hindi kailangan or for example, you belong to an organization and then hindi ka mo pwedeng sabihin kung ano yung nangyayari in that specific organization. So, pag tinanong ka, syempre hindi mo sasabihin. Meron nga yung sinasabi na what you see, what you hear, when you live, leave it here. So, hindi natin pwedeng sabihin yung mga things na nangyayari within the organization kasi number one, mamaya, ikasira ng organization, di ba? So, they are trained not to be a squealer or not to tell anything kapag tinanong sila. Then we also have psychopathic liar. So, these people or this type of liar has no conscience that's capable of lying to the point of causing death to the other people. This type of people, wala na silang konsensya. Regardless kahit anong gawin nila, wala na silang pakialam. So, if they lie, para mapasama yung isang tao, then that's fine with them. Diba? May mga tao ba talagang ganyan? Yes po. There are people that they really do not have conscience. So, kung kaya nilang magsinungaling para sa ikakapahamak ng tao, malamang sa malamang kaya din nilang pumatay ng tao. Okay? Because they already have no conscience. That is psychopathic liar. Then we also have pathological liar. These are type of person who have mental disabilities or they are not mentally capable to distinguish what is right and what is wrong. So hindi nila alam kung ano yung tama sa mali. So they are pathological liar. We also have black liar, so a person who pretends and a hypocrite. So we have different signs of lying. Lahat tayo nagsisinungaling at alam ko na alam ninyo yung mga signs of lying natin. So signs of lying, number one, we have the verbal clues and we also have non-verbal. From the word verbal, ibig sabihin, we utter words. Nagsasalita tayo or there are, what do you call this? We have words or nagsasalita tayo or there are words na lumalabas sa bibig natin. Those are verbal clues of lying. Pag non-verbal, ibig sabihin it's more on actions. So, if the person repeats the question, then that is a sign of lying. Pero hindi naman natin sinasabi na lahat. Baka merong nagpapaulit ng tanong or inuulit yung tanong kasi hindi talaga nila narinig. And meron naman na we can consider it as signs of lying. So, repetition of question, inulit niya yung tanong. Incomplete statements or fragment sentence, so hindi dire-diretso yung sinasabi niya or kulang-kulang yung statements niya. Overly polite, sobrang bait sumagot sa mga tanong mo. Swearing to the truthfulness of assertion or of assertion, yung sinasabi niya, mamatay man ako, totoo yung sinasabi ko. Yung mga ganon. So, pag nagsaswear siya dun sa truthfulness, that is a sign of lying. Number 5, vague response. So, medyo malabo yung response niya, medyo magulo, hindi mo na maintindihan. So, may possibility na siya ay nagsisinungaling. Another verbal is use of I don't remember or not that I remember expression. Ha, hindi ko maalala. Sinabi ko ba yon? So, yung mga ganon, those are signs of lying. Assertiveness, pag sinabi nating assertiveness, those are long English speech of criticism. Kumbaga parang instead na umamin siya dun sa kung dapat man siyang aminin, mas nagagalit siya. Lagi mo na lang ako sinisisi, ganyan-ganyan. Wala na akong ginawang tama. So, yun yung panglaban niya doon sa pagsisinungaling or dun sa tinatanong mo sa kanya. So, you're just asking him kung kumain siya sa labas ng may kasamang iba. So, wala na akong ginawang tama, lahat na lang mali, ganyan, ganyan, ganyan. So, pag ganun yung sagot niya, ibig sabihin, that is possibility na siya po ay nagsisinungaling. Inconsistencies, paiba-iba yung sinasabi. So, ang sinabi niya, ang kulay ng damit na suot niya nung lumabas siya ay blue. Maya-maya, ay hindi, green pala yung suot ko, naalala ko na. Ay, wait lang, red pala yata. So, hindi sure kung ano yung, or inconsistent yung sagot niya dun sa tanong mo. Okay? So, next is slip of the tongue. Eto, madalas tong mangyayari. Kapag may tinatanong kayo ng, eto, ay, tapos na pala kayong mag-research. So, usually kapag tinatanong kayo ng tinatanong sa defense, 'di ba? 'Pag alam kunwari meron kayong data na kunwari may mga hindi pa tapos sa defense. Parang kilala ko 'tong parang estudyante ko 'to. Anyways, so, tinanong ng tinanong sa defense, tapos sa ganyan, pinanindigan niya, "Ma'am, totoo po nag-gather po kami ng data, ganyan, ganyan." So, habang tumatagal yung usapan, biglang nasabi nung ka-member na, "Ma'am, hindi po talaga kami nag-gather ng data, eh." So, minsan mapapansin ninyo kapagka patuloy kang kinakausap ng isang tao, maya-maya nag-i-slip talaga yung mga words sa dila natin, eh. Sabi nga, "Saan ba nahuhuli ang isda? Sa bibig." So, that is a slip of tongue. Okay? So, nangyayari po yun. Then we also have tirades, same with assertiveness na instead na magpaliwanag dun sa tinatanong mo, gagawan or magre-rebut siya ng mga words na ikakagalit ng isang tao para matabunan yung pagsisinungaling niya. Okay? Basta lagi niyong tatandaan, pagdating sa verbal clues of lying, may words. Okay? May words na lumalabas. Another is pauses. 'Pag sinabi namang pauses, is yun yung mga pahinto-hinto kapag ka nag-e-explain. Then we also have speed of speech. So, wrong spelling yung speech dito, this should be letter E. So, pag sinabi nating speed of speech, mabilis magsalita. So, eto yung kadugtong ng slip of tongue. Kapag ka nagsisinungaling, mabilis magsalita, and at the same time, nagkakaroon ng slip of tongue. Kasi hindi yan ang naiisip yung lumalabas sa bibig niya. Okay? Those are verbal clues of lying. Then another, we also have a non-verbal clues. Pag sinabi naman nating non-verbal clues, meaning to say these are words, these are actions. Okay? So, pag emblems, ibig sabihin, ayaw niya sumagot in words, these are actions or symbolic actions that have meaning. So, for example, tinanong mo siya kung okay lang ba siya. And then, nagtaas lang siya ng balikat or nag-nod lang siya or umuo lang siya pero walang words. Those are emblems. It has a meaning, but it doesn't pertain na totoo ba yung sinasabi niya or totoo yung nararamdaman niya. Sa lying naman kasi, hindi naman porket nagsinungaling ka, masama ka ng tao. Sometimes, for example, tinanong ka kung okay ka lang. Eh, since ayaw mong naramdaman niya or mag-worry siya na hindi ka okay, nag-oo ka na lang. So, that is still lying, but at the same time, he doesn't want harm to anyone. Okay? So, pag emblems, tinanong ka kung okay ka lang, tapos tumango ka lang, o kaya naman nagkibit ka ng balikat, that is emblems. Okay? And then, another is manipulators. Sa manipulators naman, these are movement in which one body part manipulates or interacts with another part of the body. So, for example, these are some actions na minamanipulate or nag-interact siya sa other part ng body natin. For example, sa non-verbal clues of lying is yung, ang hirap naman i-explain nito kasi action nga siya. Paano na nga to? Sige, balikan na lang natin yung manipulators. Basta these are actions. So, sa breathing natin, yung paghinga ng malalim or mabilis na paghinga. So, those are non-verbal clues of lying pa rin. Sweaty and flushed face. And then, dryness of the mouth. Nanunuyo yung lalamunan kapag nagsisinungaling. Frequent swallowing. Palaging lunok ng lunok. So, facial muscle twitching. Gaze aversion. Hindi makatingin sa mata. So, usually sinasabi sa atin yun ng mga magulang natin nung bata tayo 'pag nagsisinungaling, "Tingin ka nga sa mata." So, usually ginagawa nila yun kasi 'pag hindi daw tayo makatingin sa mata, ibig sabihin, we are lying. Then we also have facial expressions and fidgeting. Sa fidgeting, these are uh, actions na uncontrollable. For example, what do you call this? Yung merong mga tao na 'pag nagsisinungaling nagkakamot ng ilong or nagta-tap ng feet sa floor o kaya naman hinahawakan yung buhok. So, those are non-verbal clues of lying. Pag sinabi nating non-verbal, ulitin ko, walang words, it's more on actions. Okay? So, those are clues of lying. Next. So, next we also have, ano na ang tawag dito? We have the old method of detecting lie. So, meron tayong mga lumang method when it comes to detecting lie. And kung gagawin natin siya sa panahon natin ngayon, napaka-imposible, right? Because when it comes to trial by ordeals, ang sinasabi nila dito or ang pinanghahawakan nila dito is that way back before, when you are innocent, God will save you. Magkakaroon ng, what you call this, magkakaroon ng miracle on your behalf or on God's behalf kasi nga you're innocent. But if you are not innocent, kung ano man yung trial by ordeal na ibibigay sa'yo, magkakaroon, magsasuffer ka doon sa trial na yon. And once na nagsuffer ka, ibig sabihin you are not innocent. Or ikaw yung hindi nagsasabi ng totoo. Ulitin ko, sa panahon natin ngayon, it seems impossible. But way back then, pinanghahawakan talaga nila to. Kasi nga, ang paniniwala nila sa Judicium Day is that the judgment of God will save them. Okay? The innocent will be saved by God. So, yun yung sa trial by ordeal. So, sa red hot iron ordeal, alam niyo na yan, meron siyang hawak na hot iron. And then, kapag ka siya po ay napasok or hindi gumaling yung kanyang sugat ng maayos, ibig sabihin, siya ay guilty. Pero kapag gumaling ng maayos yung kamay niya or hindi siya napasok or so, ibig sabihin siya po ay innocent. Okay? So, ordeal by the balance naman, dito naman, what do you call this? Tutungtong yung person doon sa scale or doon sa timbangan and then magkakaroon ng counterbalance. Ibig sabihin, lalagyan ng ibabalanse yung timbangan. So lalagyan ng pabigat yung kabila para magbalanse. So once na nagbalanse na, nakuha na yung enough na timbang sa kabila para magbalance, aalis ngayon yung person doon sa timbangan. And then, babalik siya ulit. Kapag siya ay gumaan, ibig sabihin siya po ay innocent. Pero kapag naging balance pa rin yung timbangan, siya po ay guilty. Okay, so imagine mo naman, paano ka naman gagaan ng ilang segundo lang yung pagitan, di ba? So, sabi nga natin, it's very impossible nowadays. Pero before kasi yun talaga yung pinangahawakan nila and wala tayong magagawa. Kasi yun yung ginagawa nila before. Okay? Boiling water ordeal. So, ito naman, sa kumukulong tubig. So, matalsikan nga lang ng mantika. Humihiyaw na't lahat-lahat eh, di ba? Tapos, ilulubog mo pa yung kamay mo sa kumukulong tubig. So, kapag nilubog mo yung kamay mo sa kumukulong tubig at kinuha mo yung stone out of that boiling water na hindi ka napapaso or hindi ka masyadong nasusugatan, ibig sabihin, you are innocent. Pero pag ikaw ay napaso at nasunog ng sobra or nalaptos ng sobra yung kamay mo, ibig sabihin you are guilty. Okay? Next, ordeal by rice chewing. So, sa ordeal by rice chewing naman, yung kind ng rice na kinakain nila dito is called sati. So, yung sati na to is dadasalan nila. And then, ang mangyayari is, kapag nagsisinungaling kasi ang tao, nadadry yung mouth. So, natutuyo yung lalamunan. Ngayon, if the person or yung sinasabi or yung accused dito, kapag binigyan siya ng rice and then nginuya niya, at kapag nanguya niya yun ng maayos and then niluwa niya, pag normal lang, ibig sabihin siya po ay innocent. Pero pag nahirapan siya nanguyain or lunukin yung rice, ibig sabihin siya deal by rice chewing. Then we also have ordeal of the red water. Dito naman, ang ginagawa dito is that magfa-fasting yung accused for 12 hours. So, nakalagay dyan, magfa-fasting siya for 12 hours. Ibig sabihin, hindi siya kakain. Wala siyang kahit na anong tubig or pagkain for 12 hours. So, syempre, gutom na gutom yan. And then, swallows a small amount of rice. So, lulunok siya ngayon ng konting amount ng rice. Then, right after that, siya po ay lulubog sa dark-colored water. So, yung dark colored water na yon is that yung tubig, meron siyang halong emetic. Ibig sabihin, yung tubig na yon, may mga nakatanim doon na halaman na may emetic. Ibig sabihin ng emetic, nakakasuka. Okay? So, yung, yung red water na yon is, hindi pala siya, actually, hindi pala siya, yung iba nilulubog pero yung iba iniinom. So, iniinom nila yung tubig na merong emetic, which is pampasuka. So ngayon, since naka-fasting sila, nag-swallow sila ng small amount of rice, at uminom sila ng pampasuka, so ganito ang mangyayari. Kapag niluwa nila yung rice, ibig sabihin, they are innocent. Kapag nailuwa nila yung rice na kinain nila, they are innocent. Pero kapag hindi na nila nailabas, ibig sabihin, they are guilty. Okay, that is ordeal of the red water. Ulitin ko, if the suspects nakalagay dyan, ejects all rice, na isuka niya lahat, he is considered innocent. So kapag nilunok niya or wala na talaga siyang nailabas, ibig sabihin siya po ay guilty. So next, ordeal by combat, ganito lang yan, matirang matibay. Kung sino yung malakas at natira at nanalo, then he is innocent. Then kung sino naman yung natalo, then siya po yung magiging guilty. So those are the old methods of detecting lies. Okay? Ulitin ko, ang basis nun is that if they are innocent, God will save them. And if not, hindi sila makakaligtas doon sa mga trial by ordeals na ibibigay sa kanila. Okay? Moving on, as time goes by, nagkaroon na of course ng mga development, improvements, research. So there are some methods na or scientific methods na nag-evolve in detecting deception. Number one is word association test. So, alam niyo na to, pag sinabi natin word association test, ibig sabihin, merong listahan ng mga words na babasahin kay subject as quickly as possible. So, for example, ball, knife, gun, shoes, cup, dress. So, may mga words na babanggitin and kapag si subject po ay nag-react on those specific words, ibig sabihin, may connection yung word na yon doon sa tao. Okay? So, yun yung tinitignan sa word association test. Kung saan siya magti-trigger. May mga trigger points kasi yung words. Okay? So, ganun lang naman yun. Kapag ka na-trigger siya dun sa word na sinabi, ibig sabihin, may alam siya tungkol sa word na yon. But if not, edi hindi. Okay? That is word association test. Another, we have the psychological stress evaluator. Ito naman, sa voice po ito, So, if a person is lying, meron daw mga microtremors or voice frequencies na nare-record sa boses natin. So, may mga nginig sa boses kapag nagsisinungaling. Hindi siya naririnig ng tenga natin, pero once that is being recorded by the psychological stress evaluator, maririnig din. Okay? So, ulitin ko, pag word association test, words yung pinag-uusapan, babasahin ng mabilis kay subject, and then titignan kung saan siya magre-react. Kapag ka naman, psychological stress evaluator, so yung voice natin, kapag nagsisinungaling, meron daw mga microtremors or nginig na marirecord sa psychological stress evaluator. That is a sign of lying. Okay? Then we also have the truth serum. So si truth serum is giving a type of drug doon sa ating subject that hinders their capability na hindi siya nag-hinders Kumbaga parang yung part ng brain natin is pinagre-relax niya and to the point na hindi na tayo makakapag-isip ng ng words na sasabihin natin. Okay? So, that is administration of truth serum. Okay? Next, we have narco-analysis or narcosynthesis. So, it's the same lang din with the truth serum. So, inadmissible po ito, for as an evidence. So, yung sodium pentothal, yung mga commonly na binibigay. Sinusuppress niya kasi yung mind, part ng brain natin. Okay, so, yun siya. Intoxication with alcohol. So, sabi nga, in vino veritas, in wine, there is truth. So, alam niyo naman yan. Actually, kaya siya nag-gain in wine, there is truth. Same with sodium pentothal. Pag umiinom kayo ng alak, alcohol is a depressant. So, pinapakalma niya yung brain natin. And kapag kalmado yung utak natin, nasasabi natin lahat ng gusto nating sabihin. So, kaya nagkaroon ng in wine, there is truth. Yun naman yung effect ng alak na kinakalma niya yung mind natin to the point na hindi na natin naiisip yung mga sinasabi natin. So, lumalabas to yun. So, lumalabas yung truth when a person is drunk. Okay? So, yung mga naglalaro ng truth or dare pag nakainom, diba? So, sino yung crush mo sa ating magkakaklase? So, lumalabas po yun, no? Sa mga ganitong pagkakataon. Sana hindi nyo na ginagawa yun nung matatanda na kayo. Okay. Next, we have hypnosis. So, hypnosis it is a way wherein nagkakaroon ng alteration sa consciousness ng isang tao gamit yung hypnosis. So, merong mga tao na kung saan kaya nilang mag-hypnotize ng ibang tao. So, that is hypnosis. Pero hindi rin siya considered as admissible as an evidence. Brain analysis naman is if the psychological stress evaluator ang dinidetect is the microtremors or yung nginig sa boses natin. Sa brain analysis naman is there are parts of the brain na nag-react if a person is lying. Okay, so this is a brain scan kung saan merong i-connect or i-attach sa brain ng subject and then tatanungin siya sa brain ng subject, sa ulo ng subject, and then madedetect niya yung mga wavelengths kapag nagsisinungaling yung isang tao or hindi. Iris analysis is sa mata. Okay, eye movement naman yung tinitignan dito. Kapag habang tinatanong ka, tapos pumikit ka or nag-dilate yung pupil mo, that is iris analysis. Ibig sabihin, yung eyes naman natin, yung ginagawang basis if someone is lying or not. Okay? So, yung mga yan, together with the polygraph, si polygraphy alam na natin to eh. So, it detects deception naman with the use of polygraph instrument. When it comes to scientific method of detecting deception, some of it are not admissible in court kasi kulang pa ng basis. Hindi pa siya ganun katatag. Just like in polygraphy. Even though sa ibang bansa, ginagamit siya as admissible, pero hindi pa rin ganun ka-establish yung basis ng polygraphy natin for it to become really admissible in court. Si polygraphy kasi is just considered as supplementary evidence. So, supporting evidence lang po siya and hindi siya ginagamit as pinaka-main evidence talaga. Object evidence pa rin yung pinakamatibay and polygraphy is just supporting evidence. Okay? So, polygraphy is a type or a scientific way of detecting deception using a polygraph instrument. So, when it comes to polygraphy, ito yung pinangahawakan niya. Kung bakit siya na-consider as a lie detection, deception, or it detects deception. Number one is a mechanical leg. Pag sinabi nating mechanical leg, from the word mechanical, the polygraph, yung machine natin, ay kaya niyang mag-record at gumawa ng graph about dun sa physiological response ng subject. Okay? So, mechanical leg is based on the machine. Pag physiological leg naman is based on our body. So, meron tayong part ng katawan natin na kung saan hindi natin napipigilan yung mga ginagawa or hindi natin kayang makontrol yung ginagawa ng katawan natin. Hindi natin kayang kontrolin yung heartbeat natin, hindi natin kayang kontrolin yung digestive system natin, yung pagpapawis natin, hindi din natin kayang kontrolin yung paghinga natin. Okay? So, those things na nangyayari sa katawan natin, those are the physiological leg premise of the polygraphy. Yung mga bagay na yon or yung mga actions natin na hindi natin nakokontrol, yun yung nire-record ng mechanical leg or ng polygraphy. And then pag may changes sa mga yon during tinatanong tayo, dun po papasok yung detecting ng deception. Okay? Since hindi nga natin sila nakokontrol. And then we also have the psychological leg premise. So ito naman sa psychological is about the part of our nervous system na kung saan siya yung nag-handle ng ating involuntary and emotional process. So connected po yun, no? Psychological, physiological, and mechanical leg premise. So, next, we have the major components of the polygraph machine. So, meron tayong apat. Si polygraph machine natin, meron na tayong dalawang klase. We have the analog and we also have the computerized polygraph system. Si analog, siya yung may chemograph. Okay? Si computerized polygraph system, wala na po siyang chemograph. So, let me discuss it. So, kapag pneumograph, ano ang dinadetect? The breathing of the subject, yung paghinga niya. Sa pneumograph natin, meron siyang attachment, which is what do you call this? Convoluted rubber tube. So, ito yung kinakabit doon sa chest and sa may abdomen ng subject natin. Since dalawa yung attachments, dalawa din po yung tracing niya sa chart. Kadalasan yan yung nasa taas. See? So again, the pneumograph detects the respiration or the breathing of the subject. And then, we also have, so parts ng pneumograph natin is the convoluted rubber tube, which is this one. And sinisecure yan gamit yung beaded chain. Okay? Yung beaded chain. So, yun yung ginagamit natin to secure na hindi bababa yung ating attachments. Next is the cardiosphygmograph. So, si cardiosphygmograph naman, ang dinedetect or ang nire-record niya is the blood pressure and pulse rate. So, kung alam niyo yung pang BP, yan yung ginagamit natin as part of the cardiosphygmograph. So, nilalagay po yan sa kanan, most likely sa kanan. And then, we also have the parts. So, si sphygmomanometer, ito yung ginagamit natin to add pressure sa blood pressure cuff at ang nilalagay natin ay 60. Okay? 60 po yung pressure na nilalagay natin dito sa cuff. So, malalagyan natin yan ng hangin gamit yung air pump, of course. Okay? So, we have our sphygmomanometer. This is our gauge to check kung ilan na yung naikakarga natin na pressure. Okay? So, again, that is cardiosphygmograph. You have your blood pressure cuff, you have your air pump, and your sphygmomanometer. Then, we also have the galvanograph. Si galvanograph naman, ang dinedetect naman niya is our skin resistance or yung pagpapawis ng ating daliri. So, nilalagay po yan sa index and on your ring finger. Okay? So, index and ring finger. So, these are our finger electrodes. Okay? So, those are the major parts of polygraph. Yung tatlo na yon ay present din sa computerized polygraph system natin or sa CPS. Ang pinagkaiba lang is the chemograph. Sa analog kasi, we have the chemograph. So, ito yung part na yon. So, itong part na to, habang ito yung lumang version ng polygraph machine. Habang naka-attach po to sa subject, ito yung chart paper, nagra-run yan, tapos ito yung mga pen, sumusulat po yan. Okay, on the spot. That is the analog. And this is the chemograph, yung sa may chart. Okay, tatandaan niyo yan. Kapag ka naman yan ay computerized polygraph system, wala na siyang chemograph. Okay? Wala na po ito kapag computerized polygraph system. Kasi sa computerized polygraph system, ay wait lang, nasa una. Sa computerized polygraph system, ang ginagamit na natin ay laptop. And then sa laptop po na yon, nandun na lahat ng kailangan mo. You have your application. Kapag ready ka nang i-print yung chart, i-connect mo lang sa printer. Ganun na siya napiprint ngayon. Unlike before, na yung machine ay may chemograph, so habang nagkakaroon ng examination, nagra-run yung chart. Sa CPS kasi, yung chart mo ay nasa monitor, and then kapag gusto mo namang i-print, i-print mo lang sa printer. Okay? So those are the parts of polygraph. Ulitin lang natin, you have your pneumograph. It records the breathing. So ano ang attachment natin? You have your rubber tube and secured by beaded chain. So meron dalawang parts or dalawang attachment sa pneumograph. You have your pneumo 1 and pneumo 2 na kung saan nilalagay sa chest and sa abdomen. Pangalawang major part ng polygraph is cardiograph. It records the blood pressure and your ano na nga yung isa? Pulse rate. So, ginagamit naman natin doon is the blood pressure cuff. You have your sphygmomanometer to check kung ilan yung ilalagay na pressure, which is 60. And then you have your air pump. Then you also have your galvanograph to detect the respiration or perspiration rather, or the skin resistance. You are using finger electrodes kung saan nilalagay sa index and ring finger. And then you have the chemograph, which is yung nagda-drive ng chart during examination. Pero wala na po ito sa computerized polygraph system. Okay? Next, we have the polygraph room. So for the polygraph room, number 1, it should be quiet, private, and 90% soundproof. So wala pong kahit na anong gamit ang kailangan na nakalagay dun sa may polygraph room maliban sa table, chair, and the polygraph machine. Hindi po pwedeng maglagay ng kahit na anong picture ng kahit na sino or kahit flower vase pa yan, kahit kalendaryo pa yan, bawal po. Okay? Kasi yung mga bagay na yon ay nagsiserve as distraction kay subject. It should not have any windows, so wala po dapat bintana. Contain no ornaments, so walang kahit na anong design. Pictures or other objects which could distract the attention of the subject. So, dapat well-ventilated din kung mas komportable si subject na naka-aircon. So, pwedeng naka-aircon, pero hindi naman yung sobrang lamig, ano. Kasi baka mamaya giniginaw na yung subject mo. Nakita mo yung chart, yung recordings niya, hindi mapakali, yung pala giniginaw. Okay? So, it should be enough na komportable yung subject natin. And there should be an observation room. So, observation room, kailangan meron tayong two-way mirror or one-way mirror. Okay? And the paintings of the wall should be white. So, yun po yung mga requisites natin sa polygraph examination. Okay, next. So, uses of polygraph. So, alam naman natin that it really helps the investigator when it comes to minimizing or speed up the process of investigation para din ma-eliminate yung innocent subject natin and para din makapag-focus siya dun sa mga subject na gusto mag-participate doon sa case or dun sa mga considered as suspect. Okay, so nakatulong po si polygraph examination. Okay. So, skip na natin yung objectives. Okay, limitation. So, when it comes to limitation, ang percentage ng accuracy ng ating polygraph examination is nag-reach lang siya ng 85%. Ibig sabihin, merong 15% na hindi talaga kaya or hindi natin masasabi na 100% accurate si polygraph examination. So first and foremost, number one is nakakatulong si polygraph examination pero hindi niya papalitan yung investigation. Pangalawa, si polygraph examination is not a lie detector. Hindi natin masasabi na nade-detect niya kung nagsisinungaling yung tao or hindi. Ang ginagawa lang niya is to record the changes or the responses of our body, and then ang nag-interpret kasi nun is si examiner. Okay? Pangatlo, yun nga, gaya ng sabi ko, it only records the responses. Hindi niya sinasabi kung nagsisinungaling or nagsasabi ng totoo yung person. Ang nagsasabi po nun ay si polygraph examiner. At nakabase lang din siya dun sa recordings ng responses ni subject. So number 4, it is accurate as the examiner is competent. The moment na confident po yung inyong polygraph examiner, alam niya yung ginagawa niya, alam niya i-interpret yung mga recordings, magiging accurate lang doon si polygraph examination. Kapag hindi po magaling ang inyong polygraph examiner, hindi magiging accurate yung inyong polygraph examination. Okay? The test should not be given until enough facts of the case have been established to permit an examiner to prepare a complete set of suitable questions. Remember, ang nagre-request na mag-conduct ng polygraph examination is the investigator on case. So, part po ng trabaho ng investigator on case na i-provide lahat ng information, lahat ng facts doon sa case kay polygraph examiner. Kasi yung mga yon, yung mga facts na yon, yun yung ginagamit para makapag-create ng tanong si polygraph examiner. Kung kulang-kulang yung facts of the case, eh hindi din alam ni polygraph examiner yung itatanong niya, useless po yung magiging polygraph examination. Okay? So, lahat dapat ng facts ay ibigay ni polygraph or ni investigator. 6. A test should not be administered until the voluntary consent of the subject. Tandaan ninyo, may papapirmaan po kayo na consent. Kapag hindi po pirma ng consent si subject, wala pong polygraph examination na mangyayari. Ulitin ko, pag hindi pumirma ng consent, ng waiver of consent si subject, walang polygraph examination na mangyayari. Next, no indication will be given to any person or written in any report that the person is guilty because he refuses to take the test. Okay. So ngayon, nagbago yung isip ni Pedro. Ayaw niya na palang mag-undergo na polygraph examination. Kapag ayaw niya mag-undergo ng polygraph examination, hindi mo pwedeng sabihin na siya ay nagsisinungaling. Okay? So, hindi po natin pwedeng gawin yon. Ulitin ko, kapag nag-refuse yung subject sa examination, hindi po natin pwedeng sabihin na siya ay nagsisinungaling. A test should not be administered until the accusations have been explained to the subject. So, lahat ng details, lahat po ng dapat malaman ng subject, kailangan ay masabi natin sa kanya. Next, no attempt to use polygraph for mental or physical evaluation of any person. Okay, for example, ginamit mo yung polygraph examination para tanungin kung baliw ka ba o hindi. So, bawal po yun, or any physical evaluation. Number 10, examination should not be conducted to an unfit subject. Ano ba yung mga unfit subject? Bawal yung puyat, bawal yung gutom, bawal yung buntis. Bakit bawal yung buntis? Kasi magiging dalawa yung pulse rate niya. Okay, so magugulo yung tracing. Ano pa? Bawal yung nag-take ng kahit na anong medication. So, may mga bagay na hindi dapat ginagawa si subject bago siya sumalang sa polygraph examination. Okay, so once na nakita natin na unfit si subject, nilalagnat pala siya, inuubo pala siya, sinisipon siya, bawal po siyang mag-undergo ng polygraph examination. Because yung mga bagay na yon ay pwedeng makaapekto dun sa polygraph examination. Eh, pinilit mo, inuubo yung subject ko, anong mangyayari ngayon sa tracing mo? Di bawat ubo niya, taas ng taas yung tracing. Then, useless. Hindi mo mababasa kung nagsisinungaling siya or hindi. Di ba? So, kapag ka po ganun, hindi natin tuloy-tuloy yung examination. Okay? So, ilan ang minimum na oras ng tulog ni subject? So, 5 hours, at least 5 hours, dapat meron siyang tulog. Hindi dapat siya nag-smoke for at least 2 hours. Wala dapat interrogation na nangyari. And then, hindi dapat siya nag-undergo din ng physical abuse or any body contact. Okay, ano pa ba? So, no alcoholic beverages or taking sedatives like pampakalma or cough syrup prior to the test. So, uminom pala siya ng Robitussin bago siya sumalang because alam niyo naman yung Robitussin meron codeine which is pampakalma. So, hindi pwede. Bawal din kapag siya ay may temporary illness, headache, masakit yung ngipin, masakit yung ulo, masakit yung tiyan, may sinat, may menstruation, severe colds and coughs, bawal. Bawal din yung gutom. Okay? Bawal po yung gutom. Because these things, makaka-apekto po ito sa polygraph examination. Ano pa yung bawal? He must not have sex indulgence prior to the test. Okay? So, those things are should be observed bago po mag-conduct ng polygraph examination. Okay. So, test procedure in polygraph examination, meron tayong 4. So, phase 1 is initial interview with the investigator on case at saka kay IOC, with the polygraph examiner. Pangalawa is the pre-test interview. Third is to conduct instrumentation. And then fourth phase, we have the post-test interview or interrogation. So let's start with preliminary preparations. So during the preliminary preparations, ang magkausap po dito is the examiner and the requesting party or the investigator on case. So sa investigator on case, lahat ng facts about sa case, kailangan niya na pong sabihin kay polygraph examiner. So yung spot report, background investigation, kung may suspect, may witness, the victim. So lahat-lahat. Okay? Kung ano yung mga evidence na nakuha, anong kulay, anong itsura, lahat po yun should be communicated with the polygraph examiner. Ulit, ano yung basis? Kasi nga, kailangan yung malaman lahat yun o ni polygraph examiner para maka-create siya ng maayos na mga tanong. Okay? Phase 2 is the pre-test interview. So, ang magkausap na po dito ay si subject at saka si polygraph examiner. So, kailangan niya nang i-build yung report, i-make sure na komportable sa kanya yung subject. Dito na rin sasabihin yung constitutional rights, yung pagpirma ng consent, pagkuha ng personal data, kumain na ba siya, ano yung nararamdaman niya, may masakit ba sa kanya. So, those things, lahat ng kailangan nating i-check, dapat ay matanong at ma-check during the pre-test interview. Okay? So, yung mga rights ng subject natin, we have 4. Hindi lang pala 4. So, of course, we have the Miranda rights. So, to be examined by a qualified examiner, kung fit ba siya dun sa examination, sabihin kung ano yung reason ng polygraph examination, ano pa ba? Explain yung polygraph machine, kung ano yung kailangan niya. Magbigay ng consent sa polygraph examination. Ano pa ba? So, not to be exposed to oral criticism, physical, or any abuse. And take note, may karapatan po siya na umayaw sa lie detector test. Kapag nagawa mo na lahat, for example, nakakabit na lahat ng attachments, tapos ayaw na pala niya, wala po tayong magagawa pag umayaw siya. Hindi natin pwedeng pilitin. Ay, pasensya na po, nagbago po kasi yung isip ko. Ayoko na po pala. So, wala tayong magagawa. Okay? So, kapag ganun yung scenario, pumilit si subject na itigil na yung polygraph examination, ano ang gagawin? Ititigil po. Okay? Kasi karapatan niya po yun. Phase 3, this is the actual. So, nakabit na dito lahat ng attachments and nagkakaroon na rin ng question and answer. And right after that is the post-test interview and interrogation. So, those are the phases of polygraph examination. Apat lang naman po yun. Okay? So, let's now move on sa paggawa ng tanong. Lahat ng tanong na ibibigay natin kay polygraph examiner, ay kay subject is answerable by yes or no. Okay? Yes at no lang po ang sasagutin niya. So, sa formulation ng test question, kailangan simple and direct, walang paligoy-ligoy. Must not involve legal terminologies, walang word na rape, walang word na murder, homicide, parricide, kahit na anong words na ganun. So, bawal din yung word na kill. So, ikaw ba yung pumatay kay Juan de la Cruz? So, bawal po yun. Ang itatanong natin ay yung action. Did you stab? Did you shoot? Okay, so yun yung mga words na gagamitin natin. Pero yung direct accusation, hindi po pwede. Okay? Must be answerable by yes or no. Must be clear and phrased in a language the subject can easily understand. Yung subject mo ay hindi pala nakakaintindi ng English, tapos English ka ng English, so hindi po pwede. Kung ano yung language na naiintindihan niya, yun dapat yung gagamitin natin. So, must not be in a form of an accusation. All question must refer to one offense only. Bawal gumamit ng and at saka ng or. Okay, bawal po yun. Must not contain influence to one's race, religion, race, or belief. So, types of question po tayo. So, sa types of question, when it comes to polygraph examination, so ito yung mga ginagamit natin. Number one, wait lang, ibang presentation yung gamitin ko, yung may example. Ito kasi yung marami din na lumalabas sa examination. Yung mga klase ng tanong. Pero sana familiar na kayo kasi paulit-ulit na siyang nasasabi. Yung mga relevant, irrelevant, okay, so yung mga ganun. Okay, so types of questions na meron tayo in polygraph examination. Number one is relevant. From the word relevant, ito yung mga question na kung saan meron siyang connection doon sa case under investigation. So, for example, the strong relevant, ibig sabihin, it has an intense relationship to the crime being investigated. For example, did you steal Nick's iPad? So, directly, tinatanong natin if the person, siya talaga yung nagnakaw ng iPad. Okay? So, that is a strong primary relevant. Kapag ka naman weak, ibig sabihin, elements of the crime yung tinatanong natin. It may be the time, it may be the, the evidence or the day. Kapag ka strong, direct participation. Diba? Direct. You yung tinatanong. Pero kapag ka naman weak, relevant, or secondary, pwedeng participation. Okay, so between 10 to 12, did you open the table drawer of Mr. De La Cruz? Or, pwede rin na nag-serve ba siya as lookout? So, those are weak or secondary relevant questions. Basta pag relevant, may connection dun sa case na pinag-uusapan. Okay? Then we also have sacrifice relevant. Pagka-sacrifice relevant, meron yang ano, yang palatandaan. Me pagka yan po ay sacrifice relevant, meron yang diyat or do you intend to answer truthfully? 'Pag yung tanong ay may do you intend to answer truthfully, that is sacrifice relevant question. Period. Yun lang siya. Pagka naman knowledge questions, meron din yang palatandaan, do you know for sure? Pag do you know for sure, ang nabasa niyo sa tanong, that is knowledge question. Okay? Pag evidence connecting, basic, so it links the subject to the evidence found at the crime scenes, where the footprints found outside the house of Nick yours, or sa'yo ba yung nakita ang panyo doon sa crime scene? As long as we connect the subject doon sa evidence na nakita sa crime scene, that is evidence connecting. Okay. Another question na kino-compare or ginagamit for lie detection is control question. By the way, ang pinagko-compare lang dito is the control and the relevant question. So, kapag mas mataas, ay mamaya na ngayon, basta sa control question, these are ginagamit for comparison. Ibig sabihin sa control questions, these are type of questions na same ng action doon sa ginawang offense pero hindi related. So, pwedeng mga 3 years ago, way back when you were 25, so mga ganon. Those are control questions. So, primary control questions, sabi dito, recall the offense done from the time childhood up to 3 to 5 years before the occurrence of the present offense being investigated. So, pag nakalagay before reaching the age of 28, pag nabasa nyo yun, ay, control question yun. Okay? So, when you were younger, control question yun. When you were 10 years old, control question yun. Okay? So, kapag hindi related yung tanong dun sa case, pero same ng action, that is control questions. For example, another is secondary control. Have you ever stolen anything from this locality? Or have you, when you were in high school, have you ever hurt anyone? So, yung mga ganong tanong, those are control questions. Okay? So, madali naman siyang ma-identify. Next, we also have irrelevant questions. Pag sinabi naman natin na irrelevant questions, these are questions na hindi related doon sa case na pinag-uusapan. For example, kumain ka ba ngayon? Is today Monday? Are you wearing a white shirt? So, those are irrelevant questions. Okay? So, tinatanong lang siya para ma-normalize lang ulit yung response ni subject. Okay? Para kalmado lang muna siya ulit. Then, we also have symptomatic. Pag symptomatic questions naman, actually check ay outside issues. Outside issues. For example, may palatandaan ulit to. Pag symptomatic,